Hey everybody, Daniel Char here. I am here with Steve and Jayne Lowell. And Steve is the author of Deep Thought Strategy and his book, From Stage Fright to Spotlight, and his wife, Jayne Lowell, who is a seven-figure mindset mentor. Hi guys, how are you guys doing?
Hey, Daniel.
It's good to be with you, man.
Nice to be here.
Thank you for coming. I just wanted to go over your business and how it can impact our viewers. So I know, Steve, you're a speaking coach, and Jayne, you're a mindset mentor. How does that help bring the traditional business person to the next level?
Right.
Well,
so,
you start.
Okay. Well, everybody has a lot of limiting beliefs, that's for sure. And some people have spent years working on their limiting beliefs and in personal development, and others haven't. When I met Steve, he didn't believe that mindset had anything to do with your actual business growth. Just because his mindset wasn't good didn't mean that someone wasn't going to buy his program. And so I was able to show him how mindset has everything to do with your business growth.
It's funny because what would happen to me is, you hear all of these gurus, right? And they talk about things like you have to see the positive. And if you want to be successful, you got to see the success and act like you're successful and believe you're successful. And in my mind, I was saying, well, yeah, it doesn't matter what I believe. Like, that client didn't pay me not because of my beliefs. They didn't pay me because they have no money, right? I mean, and so one has nothing to do with the other, right? And, it doesn't matter what I believe. That's not going to drive people to my website or to my events. But what Jayne taught me was that, what I believe changes everything about how I show up in the world in ways that I didn't even see. So once she got that through my thick head, I started showing up a little bit differently, and then things started happening. And of course, she, changed my life. So of course I married her, because that's what you do, right? You find a really good mentor, you marry them. That's what you do. Yeah. So it's fascinating how, to me, where I can see it now, where my mindset and belief systems were stopping me from making all forward motion until Jayne helped me figure that out.
You know what? I thought the same way too. I thought everything was about sales skills. I'm in the mortgage business. It's all about selling with people. And I was all about mindset, whatever, right? So I was one of those people too. So I thought everything was about sales strategies, closing techniques and all. But
marketing,
right? But what I learned was your internal beliefs bring out into the world, and that affects your external beliefs too.
Right.
So that's very interesting. So what is the deep thought strategy?
So deep thought strategy is a methodology for helping you to take what you already do, the skills you already have, the business you already have, and showing up differently in your market so that your market sees you as being an authority in your field as compared to your competitors. And so it's a whole series of strategies to help the way you show up so that people look at you completely differently than they did before, and completely differently than the way they see your competitors.
Just a backstory for everybody who doesn't know how we met. We met through the Wealth Mastery in Ottawa. I think it was with Jack Canfield, Kevin Harrington. And I saw Steve go on stage, and I was at the back of the room, and he had this drawing, something called the Repumeter. And it was basically how people perceive you. Am I correct?
Yeah, exactly.
On how people perceive you, your customers, and how you want to be the only one. And there was something called expert insights. Can you just go a little bit into what an expert insight is and how people can find their expert insights?
Sure. So expert insights is a term that I use to describe this. There's a body of wisdom or knowledge that you have that lies within you, that nobody else in the whole world has. And once you believe that that body of knowledge or wisdom exists, then what we do is we help you find it. And we bring out that body of wisdom or knowledge and we package it up in a way that becomes something you offer to the world that nobody else on the entire planet has. And that's what I call expert insights. Everybody has it. Not everybody believes they have it. Some people believe that they are using their expert insights when they're really not.
Yeah.
So what deep thought strategy does is, this is why it's called deep thought, is because it goes deep, deep, deep into your business, into your expertise, into your wisdom and experience, deeper than you ever thought you could. And we find that nugget called expert insights, bring it up to the surface, package it, show you how to present it, show you how to monetize it, and now you stand out.
I think one thing that's really great is how just by shifting your positioning on your words or your pitch can change your prospects or your market's perspective on you. So just to recap, Steve mentioned about, or he went on stage and said, who here is looking for a tennis coach? And there was about 400 people in the audience. And I think not even one single hand went up.
Nobody.
Right.
And then within 20 minutes, at the end of the day, I think you did a quick twist and said, now who's looking for my services as a tennis coach? And everybody's hands went up. And that's when I said, I need to talk to Steve, right? So can you just go into that little, I call it the magic trick on repositioning. Can you tell us a little bit about that tennis strategy?
Yeah,
or
why don't you tell them Brian the tennis instructor story,
okay.
and then how you switch it up.
Yeah, sure. So at that event, and I've done this with events all over the world, and you're right, I asked put up your hand if you're in the market for a tennis instructor, and no hands really ever go up. But then I talk about this guy named Brian. And I say to the audience, so let's say 400 people in that room that day, I think. And so I said, I'm going to guess that at least 50 of you are either in the market for a tennis instructor right now, or somebody who is. Then I tell them about Brian. So Brian was a guy that came to me, I don't know, 15 years ago, something like that. And he said to me, Steve, I'm going to all the networking events. I'm meeting all the people. I'm getting all the business cards, making all the calls. He said, I'm just not getting the business that I need. And I said, well, Brian, what do you do? He said, I'm a tennis instructor. So you can see what the market is for tennis instructors. Now, people aren't walking the earth thinking, I wish I had a tennis instructor, but he was a tennis instructor. So we taught Brian 3 fundamental principles about positioning, and your audience can write these things down. The first one is that, marketing, a lot of marketing and branding people will talk about differentiation. They'll talk about how you need to be different from your competitors. And what we found is you don't actually have to be different from your competitors or from anybody else who does what you do. You just have to appear to be different. Mm-hmm. And so that's the first thing. The second thing is, you begin to appear to be different by changing the language that you use when you speak about yourself or your business. And the third part of it is that when you're speaking about yourself, whether it's on a stage or one-on-one or on a webinar, on a Zoom call, it's not so, it's important that your audience understand what you say, but that's not enough. They also must be able to repeat it. So we taught, Brian these 3 principles. And then if you saw Brian, the tennis instructor today, and if you said, Brian, what do you do? He would say something like this. He'd say, well, you know how sometimes kids have so much energy, they're bouncing off the walls, and the parents get so frustrated because they have no idea what to do with these kids. He'd say, well, what I do is I take kids of any age, I bring them on a tennis court, I absolutely exhaust them, and then I hand them back to their parents. And so I told the audience that. And now I said to the audience, put up your hand if you might know somebody who's in the market for a tennis instructor. And of course, everybody's hand goes up. And so the purpose of that demonstration is this. And that happens every time, all over the world, every time without fail. And the purpose of that demonstration is this. Just by changing a few words, by changing the way you speak about yourself, it can mean the difference between I'm not interested and tell me more. Yeah. And that's what Expert Insights does. And, for all of this to work, what I've learned is that the foundation upon which the success of implementing this works is the mindset. Mm-hmm. You got to believe it, and you have to have the right supporting belief systems and the right self-talk and all of those things that Jayne does with people. So the magic for us has been our ability to combine our respective skills and expertise and bring that to the world.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, I don't have kids yet, but I'm going to hire Brian.
Yeah.
So let's do a recap, and then we're going to go to Jayne. So the first thing is you have to appear different. You don't have to be different. The second thing is the language you choose to use. And what was the third thing again?
Is that the message needs to be repeatable.
Repeatable.
Yeah.
So you don't know the message, but you've already said, you know, when I have kids, or, you know, if you have friends who have kids and they're driving them crazy, you're going to say, boy, I need to find that Brian the tennis instructor for you.
Sold.
You're not going to, you can't repeat the story word for word, but you can repeat the message,
exactly
right? And that's what you want.
Well, and it's been a year since you've seen me do that, over a year, and here we are over a year later.
Absolutely.
Remember it.
Yes.
Right. And so that's the key.
Yeah.
That's a big point, because I go to a lot of events. I see a lot of speakers, and I remember how people make me feel when I hear them talk, but I don't really remember what it was that they said. I'm like, okay, well, that was a good talk. That was valuable, but then I forget. Yeah. But with your expert insights and that Repu-meter, it stuck out like a sore thumb, and you just can't forget it. It's like riding a bike. Once it's in there, that's it. Yeah. So I know you mentioned about how everything ties in with mindset. So Jayne, what exactly is mindset, and how does it differentiate from everybody else's mindset coaching programs, or what is it? Right. And is it only for, I know there's a misconception that mindset is only for woo-woo people. What is that?
Yeah. So, you know, oftentimes I find, especially with the male population, you know, mindset can be a very woo-woo thing because they like to have things logical and analytical. And I use a modality called tapping. You might hear it called EFT. It's emotional freedom technique. It was developed about 35 years ago, and it's now mainstream in social work with nurses, with doctors. It's releasing trauma or emotion that you have around life events that occurred in your life. So we all remember times in our life where something happened, and it doesn't have to be traumatic. We're not talking about, you know, Steve's life event that happened was not traumatic. When he was 2, he had surgery on one of his eyes. And then for the next 5 years, he had to wear a patch on his eye. And what that did for him was it created this belief that he couldn't change anything, because he would try to lift it up, he'd try to peel it off, and you know, his sister was the patch police, or the teachers were the patch police. Everybody was told, don't let Steve lift that patch up. So he stopped resisting after a couple of years, and that formed a belief in his mind that there was nothing he could do about his circumstance. He couldn't change things that from the way they were. And so as he got older and got into his jobs, and then, you know, was making the money that he was making, he didn't believe he ever had the power to change any of that. He kind of had to go with what people said. I'll pay this, or I'll do that. And he'd just go, okay, because he didn't know that he could actually change that or say, no, this is what my value is. And so most people, they don't actually stop and look at what their life events are. They don't stop and look at what their stories are because they've never heard this approach, right? And so they think that they should just read a self-help book or go to a seminar, and those are all great, but they're generally a weekend fix. Or, you know, you read the book and you're inspired for a couple of weeks, but then it fades away after a while. But the work I do is really deep work, where we go in and we find where you found that limiting belief. Where was it that you first created it? And then we watch as you go through your life. What are the other stories that have validate that limiting belief along the way? And then by using EFT, which is just tapping on your acupuncture points, it's nothing really woo-woo. And it's just, you know yourself, when something's bothering you, you might go like this to your forehead, or you rub this side. We do that intuitively because it feels good. Well, it feels good because we're moving energy in our meridians. And so a lot of people do it just organically without actually doing it through a specific process. And I teach people how to actually use the tapping points to help you move through these emotions that you have that keep you stuck in what you're doing. And I learned, you know, when I had my clothing business, which was actually an 8-figure business, I wanted to go from $5.5 million in 1 year, and I wanted to double that. A lot of circumstances were dictating that in the market, and our retailers were becoming our competitors. And we only sold majors. So we sold people like Walmart, Kmart, Sears. There weren't any extra majors that I could market to, you know? And so I was like, what do I have to do that's different? And I thought, well, maybe I should be a better salesperson. I had never really come from sales. I was a buyer. Maybe I can't market. So the only thing I could really come up with was sales. So I went down to Arizona to a Tom Hopkins sales seminar. And within the first 3 hours, I was like, this is not for me, because it was all direct sales. It'd be perfect for you, Daniel. It was like for mortgage brokers and real estate agents and, those kind of people. And so I was like, okay, but I'll get something out of it. I'll just keep kind of trudging through it. Well, about 4 hours later, a business coach got on the stage and told his story. I'd never heard of a business coach before. This was back in 2006. And so I thought, I need to come home and hire one of those for me. And I found somebody that was from Toronto. I was living in Montreal, Canada at the time, and hired her and had no idea what she was going to do with me. Well, it turns out she was just going to work on my mindset. She said, Jayne, you know your business. You know what you do. I don't know your business. You know how to make clothes. You know how to go approach the buyers, but I'm going to help you with your mindset so that you have the belief that you can actually do it. And what happened was I learned that trust was my big issue, and I didn't trust other people to sell for me. So, I had to be everywhere. Well, I couldn't be everywhere. I couldn't be in the States and be here and, running production. So I hired account managers for each of the 3 majors, for Walmart, Sears, and Kmart. And what that did was they were on the ground. They could see where the dollars were. They could see when there was a hole. Of course, I would go in and do the big sales. But what that did for us was we actually doubled our sales that year to $11.4 million. And all because I started to believe, okay, I have a trust issue. I need to get over that. I need to hire these people. Once I did that, it was just easy from there. So I totally believe that people need to shift their mindset. And, that will take their business to the growth that they wanted. So, people work with Steve all the time, but if their mindset's really bad, and, they just, for whatever the reason, they've got these limiting beliefs, they can learn everything they want to learn, but it's not going to change much for them.
Yeah, I think success is 2 parts mental, 1 part mechanical.
Yeah.
And because at the end of the day, like you said, your craft, but at the end of the day, you got to go put your head on the pillow and wake up again. And while you're trying to fall asleep, your mind's going.
Yeah.
Right. And you're just thinking of, what am I going to say tomorrow? What am I going to do tomorrow? Why did I miss that sale? And it just eats up with you, right?
Yeah.
And you just go into a spiral and you can't get out.
Right.
So have you guys ever watched the show Billions?
No.
Okay. I think it was the first episode, and this guy, they had like a in-house mindset person, let's call it that. And I think it was one of the first scenes. And this guy came in and he was just feeling down. He had a really bad month. And these guys are stock traders. And she goes, how much money did you make last year? And he goes, I made $3 million. And he just felt like shit. He was just like, say that again.
Yeah.
I made $3 million. And then say that again. It's like, yeah, you're right. I made $3 million. And it's like, no, even though he made $3 million, because he was having a bad week or bad month, it was like nothing, everything went out the door, right? And I think it was such a powerful scene that it's not only about your technical skills, it's how you also think and feel while you're moving through your business.
Yeah. How do you think about yourself? How do you feel about your business? Do you really feel you deserve it? These are some common limiting beliefs, but then we dig deeper to find, because you could know that you feel like you don't deserve it, but how do you change that? How do you shift that? You can't change your childhood. So what we have to do is dig in there and honor it, accept it, understand it, and then create new patterns for it.
So I guess, like, do people with more money or the people that make more money have better or stronger mindsets, or does money have anything to do with it at all?
I do believe it's an interesting question. It's a great question. I've thought about it often because I know people who are very wealthy, and as people, I don't love them. But, I've looked at their mindset, and I think that in order to have the money, you do have to have the mindset that you deserve it and you can make it. Now, what I found in a lot of cases is they have other issues. Sometimes they're very paranoid about their health. There, you know, sometimes there's other factors, but people who have longevity with money generally have a good money mindset. You will see some people who will make money and over the course of 2 or 3 years will get rid of it all. And those are the people that have they can make it, they can't hold on to it because there's something for them that tells them they can't keep it. And so they create all these obstacles around that, and their money's gone before you know it. And they'll be the people that'll turn around and 5 years later, they've got it all back again, right?
Yeah.
But then they lose it again over the next 3-4 years because that's their pattern. They just keep losing their money because they don't have the mindset to believe that they can have it.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. That's very interesting. Tell me about this next event that you guys are doing. I think it's you guys are writing a book also, and with Brian Tracy.
We are.
Yep.
So this is our book that we're writing, and it's called Emerge: Be the Unmistakable Authority in Your Field. So people are contributing to that book and talking about how, you know, they're emerging in their business. So we had an event back in October, end of October, and we called it Emerge 2020. And it was so successful that we've decided to do it again in January. So it's January 25th, 26th, and 27th. Of course, it's all virtual. And we start at 11 a.m. Eastern so that we can get the people on the Pacific time, and we can get the people in the UK. And the poor people in Australia and New Zealand, well, they just have to figure it out.
They're going to have to get up.
Because they get up in the middle of the night, but they love the content that they do, that they come and they show up. And, you know, we give such great value. Steve talks about the Repimeter. We do a whole mindset piece where I do tapping with the audience, which is really awesome. People love that.
We do laser coaching, hot seats.
Yeah, laser coaching, hot seats. So it's great value. You know, it's only $97 for a regular ticket. You get a beautiful swag box with, you know, a water bottle in it and some of Steve's books. You get both of the books, you get a journal. I mean, it's a really great deal. And of course you can upgrade to VIP. This time we'll be having a Q&A with Kevin Harrington from the Shark Tank, and as seen on TV. So that's going to be added in as a bonus. Plus you get all the recordings if you're a VIP. So it's a really great 3 days. We just had so much fun last time. People got such crazy value from it, and decided to do it again.
Excellent. Excellent. So we're going to leave a link in the description below for that event.
Nice.
Guys, get your tickets. Any last final tips, Steve and Jayne, before we head off?
Last final tips?
Do you have a final tip?
Sure.
I'm sure you do.
Last final tips? I think if I were to offer one final tip, I think it would be something like this. You know, don't make the mistake of thinking that it's your story or your unique solution or, you know, your knowledge that separates you from your competition, because all your competitors are doing exactly the same thing. So the tip I have is find something that is uniquely yours, that nobody else in the entire world has. And it's already there inside you. It's already there. Find something that nobody else can claim ownership of. Bring that to the world and start standing out that way.
And I think my final tip would be, you know, so many people think that they can do it on their own. That, you know, there's so much information out here on YouTube and social media that you can just do it on your own. You don't need anybody's help to get to where you want to get. And I have just proven that over and over again. You know, I wasn't in the personal development area at all until about 14 years ago. I didn't even know it existed. I had created this business when I was 28 years old, and I had run it for, you know, almost 22 years, 21 years, and never used any personal development whatsoever. And then when I found it, I was like, wow, like what have I been missing all this time? And so I think it's really important that we hire coaches and mentors and work with other people, because they have insights that we can't see. We live in our business, right? We're so in it that we can't see what we don't know, you know?
And we spend well into six figures on coaches and experts and you know, in very specific things every year.
Yeah. So I think it's really important for your audience to know that it's okay. Don't be ashamed. You know, some people say, well, you know, if you have to hire a coach or a mentor, well, you're obviously not that great at what you do. You know, like, don't be ashamed for that. You know, I know, Daniel, you believe in this philosophy because you yourself have invested, you know, the same in hundreds of thousands of dollars in
Actually, for everybody who doesn't know, I hired Steve as my my mentor for expert insights, and we got that out for one of our talks for the wealth, not the wealth master,
Summit.
Canadian Wealth
Canadian
Summit.
Wealth Summit. There's so many summits right now.
I know.
It's true.
Yeah, but basically, there was an event. I signed up to speak, and I had no idea what I was going to speak about. And that's where having the right mentor can help guide you,
Yeah.
and lay out the template and actually show you what you don't know you're doing yourself.
Mhm.
And I thought that was very valuable, because when we did the speaking, it's not only on the talk that we focused on, it was also your stage presence. So we had an in-person event, and Steve got, I think it was like 5 of us, and we actually had a stage, and it started off on how do you get on stage, how do you exit stage. It's not only on your talk, because in a stadium of 400 or 2,000 people, they're watching you from beginning to end, and you might not know that you're doing it, but you're doing it, and that can affect whatever you're trying to portray as your message. So
Especially on those big stages, because
Yeah.
they've got the laser camera on you.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
And you might think you're little on that stage, but you're up on those screens and they're watching every
Yeah.
movement that you do.
But the other thing, Daniel, you mentioned is, we found your expert insights. But the thing is, you now have this beautiful asset. You've got these expert insights. This is an asset that you can take to any stage, any platform, anywhere in the world, virtual, live, one-on-one, or to thousands. And you've got now content that only Daniel Char has, that no one else in the entire world has. You have that asset now that you can leverage and start positioning yourself as being profoundly unique in your field.
Exactly. I always tell people, you can copy what I'm doing, but you can't copy me.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Yeah.
That's it. And then they can find out on their own. They can find their own expert insights.
Yeah.
So I thank you guys for your time. This was an excellent interview. Can you just remind everybody on the date of your next event? And then we're going to have in the description.
Yeah, the date is January 25th, 26th, and 27th. And, I know you're going to put the website up there, but it's www.emerge21.com. And all the details are there with all the times, and love to see anybody that thinks this would be of value to them to learn their expert insights, how to speak about themselves, get some hot seat coaching, work on your mindset. It's going to be awesome.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thanks, Daniel.
Take care.